Welcome to The Explainer. Today we are digging into the absolute frenzy that is Gurgaon real estate. You've seen the gleaming towers, you've heard about the sky-high prices, but here's the real question. Is it a gold mine for investors, or is it a landmine that's just about to go off? Let's get into it.
All right, let's just start with this one, frankly staggering number. 24,120 crore rupees. That's how much luxury real estate was sold in Gurgaon in 2023. And we're talking about homes priced over 10 crores each. This wasn't just some local record. For the first time ever, Gurgaon actually sold more luxury homes than Mumbai. Yeah, you heard that right. More than Mumbai.
But here's the wild part. At the very same time that these records are being smashed, you have market experts, serious people, sounding the alarm. They're not just being a little cautious. No, they're straight up calling it a bubble that is just waiting to burst.
So, which one is it? A gold mine or a land mine? Is this a city hitting its economic peak, or is it a house of cards just waiting for a breeze? To figure out what's really going on in Gurgaon, we need to peel back the layers. Okay, so first things first. To really get what's happening today, we've got to rewind the clock a bit. How on earth did a patch of farmland outside Delhi turn into this high-stakes financial powerhouse in just a couple of decades? Well, Gurgaon's rise was no accident. It all started way back in the 80s, got supercharged by the IT boom in the 2000s, but what's happened since 2023 is a whole different animal. This wasn't a slow climb. This was a breakneck sprint, fueled by this perfect storm of post-pandemic trends. So what exactly lit the fuse on this thing? Well, it was really three big drivers hitting all at once. First, you hit the connectivity jackpot. The Dwarka and Sona expressways finally became a reality, not just a promise on a map. Suddenly, remote land was prime real estate. Second, the pandemic created this huge pent-up demand for bigger, fancier homes. And third, you've got that solid corporate floor, a steady stream of jobs that keeps the rental market strong. You put those three things together, and you get a market so hot that some spots saw prices jump over 2,000% in 1 year. It's just incredible.
But look, this story isn't just about simple supply and demand. The real story, the thing that makes Gurgaon so unique and frankly so risky, is how all this growth is being engineered. It is a system that's purpose-built for speculation.
You know, in a normal housing market, a builder sells a home to a person. One transaction. Simple. But in Gurgaon, it's more like a game of hot potato. A single apartment might get sold 3 or 4 times before anyone even moves in. It goes from the builder to a short-term trader who flips it to a longer-term investor, and only at the very end of that chain does it find the actual end user, who, by the way, is paying the highest price.
So who is this trader? Well, they're the absolute key to this whole system. Think of them not as a home buyer, but as a stock flipper. They put down just a small deposit to book a bunch of apartments, and their only goal is to sell them for a quick profit before the next big payment is due. And get this, in many of these new projects, traders make up a staggering 70 to 75% of the initial buyers.
And this isn't some accident. The entire system is structured to help them. Builders offer payment holidays, pay a little bit now, don't worry about the rest for a year or two. They create this sense of urgency by announcing future price hikes. They'll even waive the fee on the first resale to make it easier to flip. And here's the real kicker. They often design projects to be built slowly over 7 or 8 years, which gives these traders a much bigger window to get in and get out with a profit.
And this chart right here, this shows you the result of all that speculation. In just a couple of years, property prices have shot up 70%. But the salaries of the white-collar professionals who are supposed to buy these homes, they only went up by about 25%. That massive gap you see is making the dream of owning a home in Gurgaon basically a mathematical impossibility for a regular family. Now, if this formula, a futuristic dream, plus easy payment plans, plus all the wrong incentives, if that sounds familiar, it should. It is the exact same playbook from one of history's biggest real estate bubbles, Chicago back in the 1830s. Then the dream was a new canal. Today, it's a new expressway. The technology is different, but the financial mechanics, eerily similar. Okay, so we've seen the financial machine, right? But what does all of this actually mean for the people who live in Gurgaon? What is the real, day-to-day, on-the-ground cost of living there? So if you just look at the official data from builders, the market looks pretty healthy. It says it would take about 13 months to sell all the currently available apartments. In real estate, that's a stable, healthy number. Nothing to see here. But, and this is a huge but, That official number is basically a mirage. It doesn't count the massive hidden inventory, all those apartments that are being held by the traders who are trying to flip them. When you factor those in, the real number is closer to a shocking 46 months of supply. That's nearly 4 years' worth of unsold apartments just sitting there, hidden from the official stats.
And this disconnect, it just extends to everyday life. People who live there use this pretty striking phrase to describe it. They say they live in islands of excellence. They're beautiful, high-end apartment complexes, surrounded by a sea of neglect the second they step outside the main gate.
Yeah, anyone who moves from Delhi to Gurgaon learns about the Gurgaon tax pretty fast. Your daily cost of living can jump by 15 to 20% instantly. Vegetables can be double the price. And because the power grid isn't great, you're paying huge fees for diesel generator backup. Sometimes that backup bill is just as high as your actual electricity bill.
It all leads to what you could call the civic paradox of Gurgaon. You've got these incredible, world-class expressways that then just dump you onto broken, potholed local roads. You live in a multi-core apartment, but one good monsoon rain and the whole area is flooded. You have a city that's a massive corporate hub, but with almost no last-mile transport, so every single family is forced to own multiple cars, which just chokes the roads completely.
So you have all this pressure building up in this system, right? You've got sky-high prices, this huge hidden inventory, major civic problems. The big question, the one everyone wants to know, is what happens next? Is this thing finally about to burst?
Well, what's interesting is that most experts aren't actually predicting a big dramatic crash. Instead, they think we're heading for something called a time correction. The idea is pretty simple. Prices don't actually fall, they just go flat. They just stop growing for maybe 2, 3, or even more years. And that long pause gives everything else, salaries, real demand from people who want to live there, a chance to finally catch up.
And what this time correction really means, in simple terms, is this. The era of easy money is over. Those days of flipping an apartment for a huge profit in just a few months, yeah, those are probably gone for a while.
And you can already see the signs if you know where to look. There's real investor fatigue setting in, where these flippers are just finding it harder and harder to get out. You have to wonder, is there a luxury overload? I mean, how many 5 crore plus apartments can one city really absorb? And because of all this, you're seeing the smart money shift its focus. It's moving away from risky projects and toward ready-to-move homes in areas that have real proven utility.
So when you look at the whole picture, Gurgaon isn't really crashing. It's being forced to grow up. It has to mature from a speculator's playground into a real, livable city. And the billion-dollar question that's left is, who's going to be able to afford those growing pains?
It's a city with so much potential, but it's caught between pure financial speculation and the basic need for a place to call home. And that, right there, is the Gurgaon paradox.